My name's Dick Davis. I am a lifelong resident of University Park. I was raised at 3412 Amherst, some half a block from the University Park grade school. My father was employed by the government as in the Internal Revenue. My mother was a housewife. I had an older brother that has died, Sam Davis, younger brother, Jack Davis, still living and a lifelong resident of University Park. Attended University Park grade school, the junior high and the high school. Graduated in 1953 in January. Started SMU immediately after that and went to undergraduate school, received a business degree, and then went to the Dedman School of Law and graduated after 3.5 years. It took a while to realize it, how wonderful the city of University Park was and how special the amenities were and the friendships that were created. Literally lifelong friendships from grade school on, and particularly so from high school on to college and up to this point in time. So my earliest memories when I was able to get out and about are riding my bicycle to school every day, and then in the summertime I would go to when I was released from home, I would go to the University Park swimming pool, which is now the Holmes Aquatic Center. And Blackie Holmes was my friend from first grade and was also a mayor of University Park. But to play a little bit of tennis, and at that point in time, it was during World War II. And I had a tennis racket, but it was strung with wire, and we would play tennis. The court's right there by the pool, but didn't have tennis balls. We had to look around for balls that were left or lost by people that had played before us, and we would play on those old asphalt courts when the temperature was enormously high, and then go swim for as long as we could before having to get home for supper at 6 that evening. It was at a time when there was no air conditioning and there was no television when I was growing up. That gives you an idea of the age that I am. And it was different in a lot of ways because you couldn't get a breath of air. And people in the evenings, when my dad would come home, he'd go on the front porch with my mother to sit, trying to get a breath of air. And then all of the kids in the block, and we had kids in virtually every house, would play together until it got dark or some nervous mother would begin to call everybody in. But it was a different style of life in that you knew your neighbors extremely well because everybody was out all of the time. At that point in time, my two brothers and I slept on the screened-in porch because you could get just a little bit cooler out there. And we didn't want to offend all the neighbors, but it didn't make any difference. Any way to get cooler was better. So we slept outside on that porch for probably 15 years, 10 to 15 years, until we got the first air conditioner, which was a room air conditioner. And we got 2 of them, and it was magic. It was magic. The people across the street, Henry Williams, got the first television in the block, and we would go over and ask permission to come in. And the only shows that I can recall at that point in time were wrestling, news, and there was one variety show, but that was it. There wasn't anything else on, but it was magic to us to have a television. And then, of course, gradually, virtually everybody began to get air conditioning and began to get television, and we got to know our neighbors less and less. Maybe 5 years after I got out of law school, I was asked to be the chairman of a committee for the city of University Park, and please understand that's over 50 years ago. And it was the first bond issue issued by the University Park. And it was a big deal because we were not used to bond issues, but that was my first work for, I say work, it was a volunteer effort that I was glad to help in any way I could. And I handled that, and then over the succeeding years, I worked on various committees, not continuously, but very, very often, of most of the committees that the city of University Park had at that point in time. And the people that came together on those committees to work together for the betterment of the city. Happily involved, not always agreeing on everything, but happily involved in all of those efforts that you suggest, and coming to conclusions that were, if you will, non-political, but aimed principally, I wouldn't say solely, but principally toward the betterment, the continuation of a great city, but the betterment of a great city as well. And then I was asked to run for the city council, and did so. I didn't have any difficulty in responding that I would be glad to help in any way I could. And then I served on various boards until I was elected mayor in 2008 and served 2 terms through 2012. Well, all the issues that come up before the zoning commissions and the city council are issues that have to be faced, and we're called upon to make decisions. And when the zoning, there is always a zoning case. Planning and Zoning Committee was a very good committee, but it was very heavily involved because there were many people that wanted to vary border lines or use efforts to perhaps make their house a little bigger, a little wider, a little taller, things of that type. And so when you get into those areas, you have to attend to each one of them and certainly get recommendations from the city employees, who are a great bunch in and of themselves. Pardon me. But then you make decisions, and it's based upon the ordinances of the city of University Park, as well as the precedent that has been set over the last 100 years, if you will. You cannot look at the city without realizing the wonderful churches, the wonderful YMCA programs and school programs for the kids coming up. Tremendously important and continuing. I think we have more larger churches than virtually any city, even large cities. And at one time we had among the largest Methodist, Baptist, Presbyterian churches. And we have virtually every other religion represented within our city. The influence of SMU is dramatic. The city gets its name and its presence and its thought process, including SMU, and SMU is such a very heavy influence and a very positive influence on the entire city. We're proud of SMU. The city works with SMU continuously because SMU is expanding and has issues with the city. I'm not saying bad issues, I'm just saying issues that have to be determined So we have a chance to work closely with them and appreciate exactly what they're doing. I think one of the more interesting, fun, and great things that have happened within the city recently is the addition of the Bush Presidential Library. It is a great achievement to have it in the city of University Park. The tremendous efforts of the city and SMU, and particularly Dr. Gerald Turner, the president of SMU, to be able to secure the Bush Library in the city of University Park and as an adjunct area for SMU is absolutely incredible. When the other locations and people striving to have it in other locations were set aside, and the final decision was made to put it in University Park. And the influence of the programs that the Bush Library comes in with are not only national, they're some of them virtually worldwide. And we're very, very proud of that. There's an interesting story that's probably not discussed too much, but you have to remember this was in 2008. And I was the mayor in 2008 of the city of University Park. And we had an opportunity to see the plans and the efforts and the magnificence of what was planned and what was ultimately erected. However, there's another story that you don't hear much about. And I'd say a year and a half, maybe 2 years before the opening of the Bush Library, the issue of security came up. Well, the opening of the library featured Presidents Carter, Obama, Clinton, both Bush presidents, and their wives appearing on a stage out in front of the Bush Library to a group that turned out to be between 10 and 15,000 people. And to have 5 presidents in one location at one time, centered in an area not larger than the room we're in right now, in our living room. And what should be done about the security in a situation like that? Unfortunately, under present times and present situations, I cannot see the possibility of 5 presidents and their wives being in one place at one time for a lot of reasons, but security being the main one. So the planning for the security of the Bush Library started over a year and a half in advance. And it ultimately resulted in SMU's police force being involved, University Park police force being involved, Highland Park Police Department being involved, though the library is in University Park. Highland Park Police were heavily involved as well. The police of the city of Dallas were involved. The Texas Rangers were involved. The federal Secret Service people were involved. The FBI turned out to be involved. It was a colossal undertaking for the security of that particular event. And it was serious weekly, if not monthly, meetings to see how this was done and the placement of people and the security of all involved. And it turned out to be an absolutely glorious day with a tremendous crowd and not one incident. But the security that went into that was amazing, and you would have to experience it to know how serious and important it was. There were, I think, 6 protesters of a crowd of 15,000 people. There were 6 protesters that had face masks on, that had signs displayed and all that. Those people were identified very early. They were escorted to the SMU football stadium, and the doors of the stadium were locked. And that placed those objectors and people that would interfere with the particular program some 7 blocks away, 6 or 7 blocks away. And I saw them as I was leaving, because I was a mayor at that time. I had a close-up, wonderful seat. And I saw them over the top of the stadium, looking out over toward the celebration, or where the celebration has been. And I'm sure that we finally let them out, but I don't know how long they stayed there before after the ceremony was concluded. Oh, I don't know that I have personally any great achievement. I was the deciding vote in whether or not to allow chickens in the backyard of all the cities, or those that wanted chickens in their backyard. Now, is that an accomplishment? That was an interesting sidelight, that a lady came in and wanted to have chickens, and they were not allowed, and wanted to change the ordinances to have chickens. And so it turned out, after an investigation, that there were 24 people that came to the city hall meeting to suggest that we should have chickens in all our backyards. I was the mayor at the time, and I asked them, how many of you 24 live in University Park? 2. Now, the interest of the people outside was either to sell chickens, service chickens, or do something with chickens is unknown to me. But in any event, 2 of our council members, one said chickens are all right, because in the 1940s, during World War II, my grandparents had chickens in the backyard. And the other one said, well, I was raised in West Texas, and I tended to the chickens all the time. So therefore, I think chickens are fine. Well, I want chickens. Well, there were 5 people on the council. And the deciding vote was 3-2, and to not have chickens now. The animal people of this world may hold it against me for a lifetime, I'm not sure. But Bob Biggert was on the council at the time, a great friend of mine. And he was one of those that wanted chickens. And he said the day after the vote, he went to church at Highland Park Presbyterian Church, and he was walking out of the parking lot, and one of his friends, 50 yards away, was walking out of the church and hollered, "Hey, Chicken Bob." And he's been known as Chicken Bob ever since. Davis Park is over by the track next to North Central Expressway. It is a rather small area, and it's dedicated to children. It is got the play equipment that is appropriate and was put in there, and for reason unbeknownst to me, they put my name on it. I had nothing to do with it. They said, "This is your park," and it's there, and it's used a great deal. And I'm very pleased to go up there and see the kids play. There's no big story there. I would tell you a wonderful story, but there is not. Well, there's a very high level of interest in the citizens of University Park in preserving and expanding and making this as fine a city as it can be. That effort has been a continuous one for now 100 years. Roy Coffey's father was instrumental in the beginning of the city of University Park. And at one point in time, there was the issue in the 1920s according to the information I have, on whether or not University Park should be annexed into the city of Dallas. And there was a great deal of, great number of people advocating both ways on the issue. And the future of Highland Park, of University Park, was decided by about 3 votes that it would remain a city and not be annexed into the city of University Park. There's a very high level of education in the city and accomplishments of the people within the city. And that dramatically affects the entire efforts of the city to make it as good a place as it can be and as fine as it can be. It had a dramatic influence on literally the whole citizenry, but among other influences, because of that interest in education, it had a profound effect upon the kids coming out of Highland Park High School. That there was really not much question that you were going on to college. There was not much thought of doing anything else. I was a midterm class member. There were 101 people in my class at the midterm. All but one went on to college. Now, that does not mean that all graduated or all accomplished anything, but I think a heavy influence on that is it was an expectation that you would seek to do better and to better yourself and your ultimate family and the place you live. I think it's one of the finest places to live that I have known of. And I have had an opportunity to see many other city situations. And absent some disaster or unforeseen event, the people of this city will want to not only maintain the basics of police, fire protection, and great education, but will want to make it better in every respect possible. You know, there's so many aspects of the city, of streets and signs and plumbing and water and electricity and everything that goes with it. And there are a multitude of people that are looking at all of these issues to improve them regularly. There, a great deal of effort has gone into making Snyder Plaza and the Miracle Mile as nice and as good as it can be, but still to maintain a family-friendly atmosphere. But I see nothing except something that's unforeseen that would deter this city from improving in every respect, but maintaining a classic education and appreciation of the security of the city itself. I don't think I can expand on that much further than I already have, of my great, deep, and long-lasting appreciation of the city and the citizenry, and the efforts of the citizens to make the city of University Park as fine as it can be. Those efforts are continuous, and people not associated with the committees of the city may not appreciate how much work and effort goes into making it wonderful. I do not have a specific recollection outside of a general recollection of how much I appreciate the city and how much it's meant to me and my family, most of whom live in University Park with 10 grandchildren and 9 great-grandchildren.